Hello there, Star Wars fans. Welcome to a new fan fiction. Today, what if Mace Windu was a Sith Lord with a secret army? You may know the secret army that I'm going to unleash here if you've been paying attention to my community posts. If you're wondering what the heck is a community post, well, you'll see them if you hit the subscribe button, so please do. It means a lot. And of course, leave a like. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, like part 2s to previous fan fictions I've made, coming up here in the next week or so. So, subscribe to see those right in your subscription box. Anyways, enough promoting. That's not why you're here. You're here to watch a fan fiction. I get it. So, let's get right into it. What if Mace Windu was a Sith Lord? Alright, here we go. Mace Windu stood with his lightsaber to the throat of Chancellor Palpatine. Anakin Skywalker had just walked in, and now, everything Mace had been secretly building for years was here. As Palpatine began speaking to Anakin, Mace had a moment to himself to really remember his path down this dark road. After the Jedi discovered and killed Maul on Naboo, Windu realized the Sith had returned. But they were weak, killed so easily all those years ago. Mace began studying their ways, trying to understand the Sith and how they could have returned without the Jedi knowing, wanting to learn their secrets so this would never happen again. But the more Mace learned, the more intrigued he became. He loved the Republic, but he feared the Jedi were incapable of supporting the Republic for much longer. The Republic needed someone strong, someone who can do what was necessary to lead, someone like Mace. So he not only studied the dark side, but eventually he opened himself to it, embracing it. And so he studied, embraced, learned, perfected the dark side of the Force, all while playing an important role on the Jedi Council. It was his entire life, dedicating himself to the dark side of the Force while pretending to still be a committed Jedi. He would somehow find a way to bring down the Jedi Order. But first, they had to be weakened. And that's where Palpatine came in. Mace was always one step ahead, perfectly playing the dogmatic, arrogant Jedi on the Council, and allowing a war to brew beneath them all. Then came the Clone Wars, and now, as he was meditating in his room inside the temple, everything else clicked. Palpatine was the other Sith Lord. Anakin was about to come to him with a revelation, and Mace would do what he always did with Anakin: hold him back, frustrate him, make him angry, let him fall to his own darkness, keep him in the council chambers, knowing he would appear here and now. And now Mace stood in front of Palpatine. He planned on killing him and being the final Sith. Mace raised his saber, and he felt Anakin shift in the Force. Good, thought Mace. And as he went to swing at Palpatine, Anakin ignited his saber. Mace shot lightning directly at him, though, throwing him across the room. He looked at Palpatine, his eyes now a reddish yellow, and as Palpatine stared at him in shock, confusion, anger, even a twinge of amusement at this whole thing, Palpatine contorted his face, shot more desperate lightning at Mace Windu, who blocked it again, and grabbed Palpatine by the throat with the Force. He had won. "Your use has come to an end, my lord," Mace said as he stabbed Palpatine through the chest, snapping his neck. Palpatine fell to the floor in a heap, and Mace let the dark side flow through him like never before. Finally, his grand plan was culminating, and a lightsaber ignited from across the room. "What have you done?" the voice of Anakin Skywalker said in a lost confusion. "I am ending this war and taking my rightful place at the top of the Republic, and no one will stand in my way, especially not the Chosen One," Mace said in a mocking tone. Anakin slowly approached Mace, anger behind his eyes as he began to let the fire inside of him out. "I sense your fear, your anger, your hatred, Skywalker. Give in to them and destroy me, the same way you did with Dooku. It's the only way to save Obi-Wan, to save Padme." Windu needed Anakin to act upon his darkness for his plan to fully commence. So Anakin did. He let the fire inside erupt, and he charged at Mace Windu. Mace's eyes burned with a twisted determination. Anakin, his face hardened and marked by the scars of his journey, held his own lightsaber with a deadly grip, and the room seemed to shrink in the face of this mounting animosity. Without another word, the two combatants saw their blades clash in a dance of hatred and power. Mace's fighting style had evolved, incorporating elements of his previous form as a Jedi Master, but twisting even more of the darkness into it. His strikes were aggressive, they were brutal, fueled by his connection to the dark side. But Anakin now, drawing upon his extensive training, and now the rage that fueled him inside, he met Mace's onslaught with equal ferocity, and his attacks were relentless, every swing of his saber imbued with the fury of a man who feared losing everything. As their duel raged on, the room trembled under the sheer force of their clashing blades. The walls cracked, debris scattered across the chamber, a stark reflection of the destruction that lay within both of them. The power they unleashed was awe-inspiring, even as it served as a grim reminder of their fall from the light. Mace's use of the dark side granted him access to potent force abilities. He'd embraced the dark side even as a Jedi, but now, doing it as a Sith, he was much more powerful. He unleashed waves of dark energy, sending Anakin sprawling backward, but Anakin, now consumed by his anger, even he was tapping deep into the dark side. He retaliated with deadly lightning crackling from his fingertips, the same lightning Windu had just been blocking from Palpatine. The room was a battlefield of destructive energies now, each one of them vying for dominance. Years of rivalry, years of deep-down hatred, culminating right here, right now. Despite his descent into darkness, Mace retained his strategic mind, and he had his great combat skills. He was able to exploit Anakin's impulsive nature, countering his wild strikes with calculated precision, and he aimed to wear down Anakin, recognizing that his strength was fueled by a volatile, unpredictable anger. Anakin, however, possessed a deep well of untapped potential, and with each setback, his fury, his anger intensified. The dark side coursed through him like a fire, heightening his reflexes, and as the clash continued, the room was chaos. Shattered furniture, broken glass, all the remains of the two fights that had taken place in here. And the intensity of the battle reached its climax. Mace unleashed a flurry of acrobatic maneuvers, seeking a decisive strike. Anakin, his eyes blazing with fury, matched him blow for blow, but the clash of their lightsabers echoed, and finally, with a powerful strike, Mace disarmed Anakin, his lightsaber clattering to the ground, his robotic arm falling to the ground as Mace cut it in half. And as this happened, a large squad of Coruscant Guard clones sprinted into the office, around 25 of them quickly running in. Mace saw this and attempted to quickly end this battle, so he stabbed at Anakin's heart, but in a moment of quick reaction, Anakin moved just enough to take the stab in the shoulder. Blasters began firing at Windu, so Anakin used all of his remaining power to push him away before Windu could cut at his heart. And at the large broken window now, Mace stood blocking blaster fire. He gave Anakin a twisted smile unlike anything he'd ever seen, and he jumped out into the Coruscant night. Anakin, on his knees, missing a hand, feeling a searing pain in his shoulder, fainted on the ground, and the clones poured into the room surrounding him. They were unsure of what had happened. All they knew was that two Jedi were fighting, and the Chancellor had been killed. The Republic was in utter chaos after this. The Chancellor was dead, killed by someone, an evil Jedi perhaps. Anakin was healing in a Bacta tank. The Senate was gathering to determine what was next, and the Jedi Council was preparing to convene an emergency session. They had to hear what Anakin had to say, why he was involved in this, what exactly had happened. The war was over, at least the war between the Republic and the Separatists. The Separatists had fallen, with Dooku, Grievous, and Sidious now all dead. But this did not feel like victory. Yoda stepped into the council chambers to meditate before the meeting. They won the war, yet the biggest threat seemed to still lay ahead of them. Anakin opened his eyes to see Obi-Wan and Padme. He was in the Jedi medical facility, and as he awoke, he felt the pain in his shoulder reawaken as well. But his hand was back, again, his third hand now. His first sentence was one he'd practiced for years, pretending. Padme, what are you doing here? And Obi-Wan actually spoke first. Anakin, she told me everything. Everything I pretended I did not already know. She is carrying your child, Anakin. So I brought her here to make sure you were okay." Anakin looked at them both and said, "Thank you," before embracing Padme. And after a good moment, Obi-Wan spoke again. "Though the war has ended, the Republic is in terrible shape. The Chancellor, who Yoda revealed was the Sith Lord, is dead, and the clones report that Master Windu struck him down, and then they think he attacked you. You must come to the Council, Anakin. Tell us everything we are missing. We're not sure what has happened, where Master Windu has gone." And all the memories came back for Anakin. What had happened with Windu, their conflict, how he had been evil this whole time. The Council would finally be on his side. They would finally embrace him. So that's where they went, inside the Council. Anakin took a seat and stared at the open one next to Yoda. Memories of Windu poured through him, very few of them good, and this whole time he was a Sith Lord. The anger, the dark side that Anakin used versus Mace, still burned inside of him. It was part of him now. Mace had brought it further out than ever before. And he realized, was that part of his plan? The Jedi had to sense that inside of him. Would the Jedi trust him? And the council meeting began. Anakin gave his account of everything. How he found out Palpatine was a Sith Lord. How he told Mace. And how Mace made him stay in the council chambers. How he disobeyed orders just in time to find Mace with a saber to Palpatine's face. And how Mace killed Palpatine and then tried to kill him. How his eyes were evil, his presence in the Force dark. Yoda and the rest of the council looked at Anakin with much deliberation. Clouded your judgment may be. Great darkness I sense inside of you, young Skywalker, Yoda said. Anakin understood now. He knew why Windu wanted him to embrace the darkness. The council would never trust Anakin's story, with him surrounded embracing the darkness like this. Ki-Adi-Mundi spoke up. Some of us have to fear the worst, Anakin. You and the Chancellor were close. You could have been rather unpredictable after his death. Perhaps you killed Master Windu, and you have now convinced yourself he was evil. Anakin, we cannot find him anywhere, and he has been the most stand-up Jedi, respectful of the Republic. Search your feelings, Anakin. What really happened in that room? And his rage burned inside of him now. The Jedi still didn't trust him. He had helped push Mace away, at least for now, and rather than focus on where he was, the council was blaming him. Again, they never trusted him. He heard Obi-Wan speak now, which always helped calm him. Masters, the clones reported similar things about Master Windu, did they not? Yellow eyes, attacking Anakin, him escaping out of the window. Anakin spoke up now. While we all sit here and blame me, Windu is doing something. He's out there, preparing something. We should have been looking for him, Anakin yelled as the emergency comlink beeped. In the center of the council now, a hologram of Commander Cody, who Obi-Wan was extremely familiar with. Generals, something is going terribly wrong here on Kamino. In the last 10 minutes, thousands of clones have fallen, dying instantly. Commander Cody looked around frantically. Blaster fire could be heard in the background. Screaming. Explosions. Cody, what is happening there? Yelled Obi-Wan. The clones that are dying. They're not staying dead, sir. They're not staying dead. Mace Windu had executed his plan perfectly. The Jedi Council was questioning Anakin rather than looking for him. This had given him more than enough time to go to his secret home on Coruscant, grab every sample of the Death Trooper virus he'd spent years creating. With the help of Sith magic, Sith alchemy, Mace had created the perfect bioweapon, and as he stood atop a spire in Kamino, he marveled at its effects. He let the virus go through an open ventilation system, and within 10 minutes, thousands, tens of thousands of clones had died painful deaths and turned into undead monstrosities with one goal: to infect anyone who was still alive, to bring them into this hive that they were under. Mace had altered the virus enough to ensure his thoughts, his motives were shared with every infected being. They would do his bidding without any question, with extreme vengeance, and he would bring down the Republic from the inside. This was his only dose, but it would bring down Kamino and bring the clone army to his side. The Jedi were coming. He knew it. He just had to stop them in one final battle, and he would have success. He would have his way in all of this. This was rushed, it was quick, but it had to be done. There was finally a moment for it, and the Jedi had built up such a strong army, stronger than Mace would have ever suspected with these clones, but they would be used against them. They had to be, if Mace was going to succeed. Captain Rex stood outside of the communications room, guarding it from anyone who tried to enter. Cody had just gone inside to contact the Jedi Council about what was going on. Clones were dying faster than possible, and they were reawakening. They were coming back as mindless bodies, attacking other clones. Rex, Cody, and so many others had returned to Kamino after the war. Rex had helped deliver Maul to Republic prison and said goodbye to Ahsoka before returning, and now things were supposed to be good. But now Kamino was crumbling in on itself faster than Rex thought possible. And as Rex waited, 5 clones turned the corner, moving in twisted ways, full-on sprinting at Rex. He swore to himself, aimed, and shot 4 of them down before the 5th ran right into Rex. It began clawing at Rex's armor, starting to rip it apart before the door opened and Cody shot it dead. "The Jedi want everyone still healthy on transports out of here immediately," Cody said. "They're coming, but the rate at which clones are dying is unheard of. They can't get here in time to save anyone." Rex and Cody sprinted to the door. They opened it to pure chaos outside. The city was filled with fire, explosions, clones attacking each other. Just violence. The city was falling apart into the water as an all-out war broke out, unlike anything Rex and Cody had seen. The horrors of clones attacking each other. Rex thought he saw the worst of it on Umbara, but now, this was worse than ever. Transport ships, as they looked around, were filled with explosions from the inside, or the dead clones running in and taking them for themselves, taking them over so the healthy clones could not get inside. But there was still at least one transport behind Cody and Rex that remained. They ran to it and began boarding with any healthy clones they could find along the way. They would help out, they would escape for now, but they would be around to help when the Jedi arrived. The Jedi Council now conversed in a sad, confused tone. "It's Windu," Anakin said, defeated. Why hadn't they just listened to him? Now, somehow, Kamino had fallen to some sort of twisted bioweapon. And now, of course, the Council agreed, after seeing it with their own 2 eyes. And there was no one else that possessed the type of power or knowledge to make everything crumble like this. Anakin and Cody's story lined up. They lined up to make sense of what was going on. "Know what this is, I do," Yoda said as he tapped his stick on the ground while looking down. "Around for a long time I have been, and an ancient virus created by the Sith, this is. Goes by many names. Once infected, a being will die and come back as someone else. Under the influence of Windu, they are. Cut off the head of the snake and die, they all will. Kill Windu and die, they will." Obi-Wan said, "We must go to Kamino. We must help any remaining clones. They've helped us with so much without ever questioning anything, and now their death comes at the hands of a Jedi." "He's no Jedi," Anakin said. The Council agreed they would go to Kamino with any Jedi who could go with. 10 Republic cruisers were boarded, with around 100 Jedi each. A lot of the Jedi were still scattered around the galaxy from the war, but any Jedi that were able to, on Coruscant, they went. Clones were scarce here as well, with such little time until departure, but by the time the cruisers took off, there were as many clones as Jedi. All 10 shot into hyperspace towards Kamino, around 100 Jedi on each, around 100 clones on each. On the rainy planet, Mace Windu walked over the Kaminoan bridges in the city as things were beginning to settle down. While some clones had escaped on transports, Mace Windu had taken over most of them and secured enough transports for the next phase of his plan. The Jedi were coming. and he would surprise them in space, using the virus, using his turned clones to turn the Jedi as well. He rounded up his new loyal, undead troops into ships, squeezing as many as possible into hundreds of different transports. While the Jedi emerged from hyperspace, they would have a surprise waiting for them. Anakin and Obi-Wan were on the same cruiser when they emerged from hyperspace, and the panic ensued. Immediately, swarms of smaller ships latched into the cruisers of the Jedi and began ripping into their ships as soon as the Jedi emerged from hyperspace. Pods, smaller ships, anything latched onto the cruisers. Turned clones were emerging slowly into their cruisers. They would be taking over. They would take any Jedi, any clones, and turn them to their side. Anakin and Obi-Wan's cruiser was safe for now, but they had to act immediately. "It's a trap," yelled Obi-Wan. "Windu knew we would come. We have to get to him quickly. Anakin, to the hangar." And the two Jedi sprinted to the hangar bay to get in their own fighters. They were sitting ducks here on the large cruisers, and as they sprinted through, Jedi and clones were all around them. And then the first wave hit. Turned clones started pouring through a ripped opening and attacking the Jedi and good clones on the ship. But these attackers were not really clones. With their helmets now off, they were like rabid beasts charging in great swarms. But they did not have guns. Anakin and Obi-Wan were able to swing away, killing the turned clones. But in groups, they were dangerous. Behind them, they overtook Jedi, they overtook clones. Anakin and Obi-Wan had to get to their ships. They sprinted to the hangar, and once they finally reached their personal fighters, they took off immediately. Evil clones, groups of them, chasing them down, jumping onto their ships as they took off, and flying off back into the hangar, or into space, as Anakin and Obi-Wan entered the space battle. Now into the open space, Anakin and Obi-Wan dodged pods, locked onto the cruisers. They were filled with turned clones that would infiltrate and attack, and Anakin reached out with the Force, and among the Camino transports ahead, he pinpointed the one harboring Mace Windu. He was ready for them. The two Jedi flew through space, shooting and destroying many pods, many ships in the process, doing whatever they could to help their allies. They finally reached the ship with Windu inside. The two Jedi entered and ejected from their ships. Now, inside the transport, they stood face to face with Mace Windu. "How predictable," he said, and from behind him came tons of turned clones. "The two Jedi that were sent on every mission in the Clone Wars, the two Jedi I just wanted to die every day, are here to die at my hand." Anakin and Obi-Wan exchanged a look of concern as the clones poured through. They were ready to take on everyone, when blaster bolts fired to the floor, destroying most of the evil clones in the process. A clone transport landed, and out came Commander Cody, Captain Rex, and other clones that were still actually alive. "We'll take care of them, generals. You do what you have to do," shouted Cody. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu now stood alone as the clones battled each other on the other side. "We will end this quickly, Windu. Once you are dead, the galaxy will finally be at peace," Anakin said. "The only peace comes from my hands," Windu said as he ignited his lightsaber. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi found themselves now locked in a duel with their corrupted Mace Windu. The flickering lights overhead cast eerie shadows as the hum of their lightsabers filled the air. Anakin, driven by his raw power, lunged at Windu with a ferocious assault. His movements were swift, they were aggressive, fueled by passion, fueled almost by the dark side still. Mace may have turned him to the dark side at least a little bit, but now Anakin thought that would be his undoing. His blade clashed relentlessly against Mace Windu's darkened saber, the clash of energy sending ripples through the Force, and Obi-Wan behind them, a Jedi of patience and precision, even in this panic could practice those moves. He circled the battlefield with a measured grace, and eventually struck with a deliberate intent, his blade tracing elegant arcs in the air as he sought to disarm and destroy his fallen comrade. With every clash, he observed Windu's movements, searching for a weakness he could exploit. While Anakin attacked, Obi-Wan would find the weakness. Mace Windu, now a twisted reflection of his former self, fought with a menacing aura. His attacks were fueled by an unchecked rage. he was embracing the full power of the dark side. He met Anakin with swift parries, retaliating with lightning-fast strikes of his own, even shooting lightning out of his own hands to keep Obi-Wan at bay. Each swing of his lightsaber seemed to carry the weight of his soul, and as the battle raged on, the ship's control room bore witness to the impressive power wielded by these warriors. Consoles sparked and shattered under the strain of their clashes, lightsabers hitting controls, their acrobatics defying the confines of the room, and the Force pulsed with an electric energy as the combatants pushed their skills to the limits. Anakin, drawing upon his deep connection with the Force, his newfound connection, unleashed a torrent of the Force, hurling debris, hurling equipment towards Windu, and the Dark Warrior countered with powerful Force moves of his own, deflecting the projectiles, throwing them back at the two Jedi. And Obi-Wan, finally seizing his own opportunity, seized Mace Windu's distraction, launched a precise strike, but narrowly missed him. The intensity of the battle escalated, all three combatants trading blows, Obi-Wan in now, trying to take advantage of a tired Windu. Their lightsabers blazed through the air, creating a mesmerizing light. The confined space of the ship vibrated with the sheer magnitude of their clash. They were threatening to just throw themselves around at every strike. Mace began to get the upper hand. He disarmed Obi-Wan, kicked him to the ground, and as he went to strike him down, as Anakin charged to deflect it, a blaster bolt hit Mace in the hand, sent him stumbling backwards. As he did so, Anakin cut through his arm, promptly stabbing him through the chest. Captain Rex and Obi-Wan ran up to Anakin as he stared at Mace Windu. Rex looked at him and said, "That's for Kamino." Mace started dying now. "I have brought balance and destroyed the Sith, despite you holding me back at every turn," said Anakin as he pulled the saber out and watched Windu die. Across all the ships and on Kamino, the fallen clones began to die for real. Their brains had been connected to Windu, and without him, they could now die. They had turned hundreds of Jedi during the battle as well, and now they too could truly die. Jedi had began fighting other Jedi as they weren't sure who had turned, weren't sure which clones to fight, they weren't sure what was going on. They would have been overcome in a matter of minutes if Anakin and Obi-Wan had not taken out Windu. The Republic won the war, and then they won the final battle, but the losses were absurd to comprehend. Their cloning facilities were completely wiped out, along with more clones than they could count. The Jedi Order was greatly wounded, but it would recover in time. They had to hope the war was over. All wars were over, for a long time, as their resources had run completely low. Alright, that's where I'm going to end it today. You can come up with like the cleaning up side of it, what the Republic does, Anakin, Padme. In the end, you can just kind of put that together. Yeah, I think that's a good ending. Anakin and Padme, of course, they do settle down, as we like to end them here. It's always cool to see those two live in the end. Anakin, yes, he did reach into the dark side. Yes, he did really touch the dark side. It didn't fully overcome him in the story. He was able to balance it with the Jedi needing him, basically, and Mace Windu turning. So, he killed Windu, prophecy was fulfilled. You can imagine any other cleaning up details in your own mind. Make it extra fun for yourself. But what did you guys think of me adding the Death Trooper element? I want to do it in another one of these with like a really long one all about the virus. Maybe sometime, but this one I just wanted to do what if Mace Windu was a Sith Lord and not have it just be like he used Order 66. So let me know what you thought. I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed reading it. I hope you enjoyed listening. Please subscribe, please leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video.